everyone. It is Marc Berman from TV Media Insights, and I'm coming to you live from the Summer 2012 press tour in Los Angeles at the famous Beverly Hilton Hotel. My special guest today is a very good friend of mine. This is Anne Louise Bannon. Hello, Anne.
Hi, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Anne is the creator of website YourFamilyViewer.com.
That's it.
Tell us about your website.
It's basically a review site to help parents find TV they can watch with their kids. As you know, it's not an easy thing to find a show that you can watch with your children and not have to worry about extraneous education, shall we say.
Well, let me ask you a question. Now, just to bear in mind, obviously, we've been sitting at this press tour now for close to 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We've been seeing session after session. Everybody comes here saying how great their shows are. I want to ask you a question. I grew up with a show called The Waltons. We all know what The Waltons is. I, ultimately watched Little House on the Prairie. I watched Seventh Heaven. Why don't we see more shows like that, in your opinion?
Because they're really, really hard to make.
Why? Why are they hard to make?
Because, well, any show is hard to make. Let's face it, the vast majority of all shows fail.
Yes.
The vast majority.
Yes.
And so that ought to tell you something right there. Secondly, I think the other reason it's so difficult to make is you have an added layer. You have a wider range of interests to consider and basically sensibilities to consider.
That's true. I mean, my personal opinion is this. I think the networks look for sexy shows, and they don't consider family dramas with a bunch of kids and a friendly dog and a smart mouth maid. They don't consider that family friendly. It's family friendly. They don't consider that sexy, I should say.
They don't consider it sexy.
No.
And in fact, look at the family comedies we've got coming up this fall.
Yes.
The Neighbors, Guys with Kids.
Yes.
All of those have sex as a good part of their jokes.
Yes.
Which, I like sex too, but I don't think I want my 7-year-old hearing about, somebody's lost testicle or something.
I agree. No, but it's interesting. It's interesting. Go to Friday night, where you have ABC's going to try to redo their TGIF brand. What do you think about that?
I think it's a great idea,
Yeah.
especially with families with tweens are the most likely to be home on Friday night. But again, I think Hollywood's idea of what is family safe and family friendly, two different things,
I agree.
is not necessarily the same thing. A lot of people aren't as worried about sexual content as others are. Others are more worried about violence and others are less so. So there again, you've got another problem that we've got a wide breadth of values in this country.
Yes.
And so it's very hard. And something else that just occurred to me also, it's very hard to find products to advertise that reach the entire family.
Yeah, that's true.
You're going to advertise a Chevy Blazer to a 5-year-old? I don't think so.
Well, it's interesting. You and I are the same age. We won't say how old. So we come from the same era of Do you remember the time, and I'm sure you do, when there was a family-friendly programming hour at 8 o'clock in the evening? You had to put on certain types of shows. What bothers me about the fall schedule in particular is the fact that CBS is moving CSI New York to 8 o'clock on Friday. It's not an 8 o'clock show.
It's not an 8 o'clock show,
No.
and it is a frustration if you've got young kids.
Yes.
I think that brings up one of the most critical concerns for parents this fall is going to be the violence. So many of the dramas, Elementary, a woman gets killed in the first few scenes in slow motion.
Yes.
An otherwise good show, but my God, there's all these issues. And what happened recently in Colorado, granted it's going to be a couple months since then, the news cycle does get people talking about things differently, but I think parents are going to be concerned.
I agree. It's... Unfortunately, you look at CBS, for example, there is an endless appetite for crime solvers. I mean, look at the CSI franchise. It's been, there's only 2 coming up in the fall. Miami is gone. But the parent, the mothership, and, of course, New York is coming back. You have all these other new crime solvers. There is an endless appetite in society to see this type of programming.
I think because murder mystery there's the return to order at the end.
Yes.
We know who done it. We have achieved control. The world is a scary place, but at the end of the story, we know who done it.
Yes.
And the bad guy is, in jail, presumably getting justice, and in a world that doesn't seem like that happens very often. So, of course, I think that's part of the draw. It's one of the reasons why people read murder mysteries.
True.
It is one of the most popular genres of genre fiction.
Well, let's look at the schedule, and we talked about some of the new shows. We have 21 new shows coming up on the broadcast networks.
Yeah.
Of the 21, is there anything that just stands out that this is a show that you would recommend?
For families, no. There is only, and in fact, there is only one show that I would call consider a standout at all, and that was The Last Restored on ABC.
Yes.
It does have issues with violence. It does have the pilot had one utterly extraneous sex scene that came out of nowhere, and I'm like, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't just the sex. It just, why is this here? It doesn't belong here.
Because it's going to get a rating point.
I don't care. It's not going to get anything. It's just stupid that way. So, but as a drama, it was fabulous. It was very well written. Another show that I think might attract a lot of kids, but is not for kids, is Animal Practice.
Yes.
I mean, all those animals are cute. They're wonderful, and the behavior of the characters is not something you want your 7-year-old looking at. Now, if you've got older kids, they're teenagers or pre-teenagers, and you're watching with them.
Yes.
Bit different,
yes,
but Animal Practice is going to have to be very carefully watched with.
Well, my immediate pick, and not because I think it's a wonderful show, but because it is on ABC on Friday night. It does feature Reba McEntire, and I would go with Malibu Country. I think it's family friendly. I saw the pilot for the most part, and obviously, if it works paired with Last Man Standing, I assume at some point ABC will try to expand to 2 hours. And I want to thank you very much for joining me, Anne.
Hey, well, thank you, Mark. I enjoyed it. Had a great time.
Well, please check out Anne's blog. It is, you want to give us your website address? YourFamilyViewer.com. That's cool. YOUR, family, VIEWER.com. Great. Well, thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you, Mark.
And we're going to wrap up with the press tour. And I am Marc Berman. You are Anne Louise Bannon. We want to thank you very much for joining me. And I will be back with more news about my favorite medium, television, tomorrow. Signing off, Marc Berman and
Anne Louise Bannon.